Welcome to Faith, Reason, and Geekdom. I'm your genuflexor, Roger. My brothers and sisters in Christ, join me every other Wednesday as we work out these three perspectives in our everyday lives. That's what I call Christian genuflexing. Excited. We're going to be talking about the Batman, the Matt Reeves 2022 Batman that finally came out, because this movie actually was supposed to come out I think 2 years ago. This had multiple dates that was supposed to come out, like in October of last year it was supposed to come out. There's been delays. There's been moving the schedules around.
So hello everyone. Yeah, it's awesome. Good to be back. Thanks, Roger, for inviting me to come back on your podcast. It's always an honor and a pleasure to be here and share some time and space with you on the internet. I'm definitely excited to see this movie. Full disclosure, I'm more of a Star Wars Marvel guy, but the whole Robert Pattinson casting intrigued me. I've never seen any of the Twilight movies, but just his selection and just kind of knowing who he is and kind of where he comes from, right? It's a different kind of genre, right? At least to me anyways. I'm not sure if that's right or wrong, but to me, Twilight Saga seems like a different kind of genre from someone who's never seen them, right? So take that for what it's worth. But overall, I was curious, right? Curious to see how this would turn out. So the question you asked is, where did I see the movie? So as it turns out, last week, as of recording this, last week was spring break for the school district that both of my sons attend, right? And my wife had to take a business trip, right? So the company she works for is located in New York City. So we decided, hey, let's make this a family spring break trip combined with a business trip. So while my wife was taking care of business, the boys and I went to go see Batman, the Batman. So in New York City, down on Fulton Street, cool theater called IPC Theaters, and right by the water, close to the Brooklyn Bridge. So thinking about how water plays a role in this movie, it kind of made me think all right, well, I can just look out the window and see the water from my hotel room. And you start to kind of game plan, okay, if something happens, what am I going to do, right? But that was an experience in itself, just kind of, being in the city that never sleeps and thinking, wow, this is Gotham-ish, where we are. So that was an experience, and honestly, a very, very cool experience for all of us that went. I have two boys; they're 16 and 14. So, I got some Joker vibes from this movie, and they have not seen the Joker yet. So, honestly, I was kind of shocked.
Oh, you're talking about the Joaquin Phoenix, the movie, right? Joker?
Right.
Oh, okay. Yep. Yeah.
Yes, the Joaquin Phoenix, Todd Phillips movie. Yes. Yeah. So, checking the ratings, PG-13, I was like, all right, we'll be good, right? But about an hour 45 into the movie, I was like, wow, I had to pull out my phone and, dim the screen to make sure that I saw right. It was PG-13. Yeah. So I was like, all right, I was okay, that's where we are now.
It was a really dark movie. Yeah. So we'll get into that. I saw this because this movie came out March 4th. Was the release date. Yep. Again, directed by Matt Reeves, starring Robert Pattinson, playing Bruce Wayne, Batman. Yet Andy Serkis playing Alfred, Jeffrey Wright playing Commissioner Gordon, or not Commissioner. I'm sorry, I'm so used to saying that, James Gordon, because he's not Commissioner
right.
yet. Yeah, Colin Farrell playing the Penguin, or Oz as they call him. Zoe Kravitz as Selena Kyle, and I think an excellent performance from Paul Dano as the Riddler, and other John Carmine Falcone played by John Toretto. That was kind of like a surprise for me. We'll get into the casting and stuff like that, but this movie came out March 4th.
as a tool. But when that light hits the sky, it's not just a call. It's a warning. I've been trying to reach you. Find the God! This is about a king, and Ritter's the match.
I can take care of myself.
If this continues, it won't be long before you've nothing left. I don't care what happens to me.
It's only gonna get worse for you.
Whoa, take it easy, sweetheart. Hear everything they say, ain't you?
Maybe we're not so different. Who are you under there?
I'm vengeance. It's black and blue and dead all over. Dear God.
I got you! I got you!
And so I saw it on a Saturday, and I went with my friend. Actually had gotten tickets too, but he was going with sitting next to his girlfriend and her son and her brother. So they just sat like just directly behind us, like right directly behind us. And then we went with another friend, Omar. So he was in town,
Yep,
so
Omar.
we went, and so Omar came with me and saw that he wanted to see the Batman too. So, yeah, so it was pretty cool. They were like directly right behind us and stuff like that. So, and they had a lot of busy things to do, so I didn't get a chance to like talk to him very briefly after. Like they had to take off right away. So I was like, I wanted to talk about it more. And so you're actually the first person that I'm talking about the Batman with. So that's pretty, yeah. So I haven't had time to talk to anybody about the movie. So I think it should be good. So what are your initial, just right off the back, what's your overall initial thoughts about the movie overall?
So before I get into my overall thoughts, really quick, Omar, shout out, man. Just want to give you a shout out. You know, he's a buddy of ours, so just want to make sure we take some time and just give him a shout out. So
Yeah,
there you go. So initial thoughts. So honestly, you know, I go into movies and I enjoy them for what they are. I can break down the plot and kind of reflect on it, and I've taken some time to kind of do that afterwards. But for me, for what it was, I'm gonna say I liked it. You know, for a movie, it's 3 hours long.
yes,
I went in knowing that. You know, unfortunately now, that's a part of the movie. That's a part of the movie ticket buying experience. Is how long is the movie?
yeah,
So that way you can plan accordingly, right, for
Yeah.
things. And after I remember when was it Robin Hood, the movie with Kevin Costner. I believe that was
Oh,
one
yeah,
of the first
Morgan
2
Freeman,
hour long
yeah.
movies, and everyone was shocked. This movie is 2 hours long.
Yeah.
Everyone was shocked about that. So now 3 hours. We've had Endgame, the Batman. I'm not sure if there's been any others, but 3 hours is kind of becoming a thing for movies.
yeah,
So going into this movie, I knew it was going to be that, and I did enjoy it. I have had some comments on social media just from friends that have kind of shared their takes on it, which I can see after watching the movie. Them sharing their thoughts on it, and whether it was the pacing or the dialogue or lack thereof, or action or lack thereof, whatever the case is, I could certainly see their points. I liked it simply because when I go into a movie, I'm interested in it. I'm going for the experience, right? I'm in New York. I'm with my sons.
Yeah, soda.
Yeah, popcorn.
Goodies.
You know, nowadays it's a meal. It's really not even popcorn. It's a meal now, right?
Pizza.
So just kind of sharing that, you know, creating those memories. You know, for me, what it was, I liked it.
Yeah, that's good. And this movie is currently at 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. So it's certified fresh. So that means a lot of people are liking it, the critics, the audience score. And yeah, this is it's clocked in at officially at 2 hours and 56 minutes. So yeah, it's a 4 minutes shy of a 3-hour movie. And that's it's one of the longer movies. I'm not going to say it's better than this or what rank it is, but like I want to see it again. I definitely want to see it again.
Same.
And
I do
like,
as well.
Yeah, I love the movie. There are problems, and we'll get into little nitpickies that stuff that had problems with. But overall, my overall sense is I loved it. I enjoyed it. It's like very dark. To me, it is the darkest Batman. It makes The Dark Knight look like a fun time Marvel movie. The way the whole grittiness, the darkness. The cinematography, I think, was amazing. There's a bunch of iconic shots that I would love to have, like, on my wall. Just, like, post it up on the wall, hang out, and have people show people and stuff like that. Beautiful. The acting is, like, top-notch. You know, you had Robert Pattinson. I've seen a lot of his movies after the Twilight. That he was in a little movie called Good Time. He was in a movie called... what was it? Good Time. And then he was in Tenet, you know, brief role, not like a big role, but he came out in Tenet. And then a bunch of other movies, there was a weird space movie that he had came out. Zoe Kravitz was really good. The only stuff that I've seen her in was a series on HBO called Big Little Lies. I don't know if you guys seen that show, but she does an excellent job as one of the characters in that HBO series. Paul Dano, I thought he did the performance like the best out of anybody. I even think he might do, like, maybe he might be nominated for, like, I would say best supporting actor for sure. This performance was amazing. It was chilling. It was creepy. Jeffrey Wright, I've known him in stuff like Boardwalk Empire and with Westworld. We saw Batman more than Bruce Wayne, and I enjoyed that. Like, we didn't usually in Batman, it's like you see a split, like you see Bruce Wayne. We didn't see a lot of Bruce Wayne, and I like that. He was mainly Batman, and his performance was so great. You see, I don't know if you've seen a movie, The Lighthouse, with William Dafoe. Patterson puts on a clinic in there. The movie High Life, that's the one I was thinking about. It's a space movie, kind of like a science fiction. He was in that one.
So just kind of takeaway first is it sounds like Robert Pattinson's been honing his craft, if you will, right? Kind of a industry speak there, which is, you know, good to hear. Honestly, the only movie I've seen him in is that Harry Potter. Which one was it? The Goblet of Fire.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the only movie that I can say that I've seen him in. I think I may have seen the movie he was in with Reese Witherspoon. Something about an elephant or waters an elephant.
Yes, there you go.
I forget the title.
That's right. But, that's when he kind of started his rebirth, I guess, if you will. Yeah, post Twilight.
Right, post Twilight, exactly. Yeah, I may have seen it. I don't remember honestly, but yeah. So aside from Harry Potter, that's really about it. Okay, so opening of the movie, you know, I like that they kind of they showed, you know, the Joker parts kind of carrying on. I don't really know where this falls in the chronology of the storyline.
It's a standalone, yeah.
Oh, it's standalone. Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
standalone.
It sounds like they kind of either bridged it or at least gave some kind of nod to the Joker movie.
Yeah.
Because one of the opening scenes, right, is you see the group of guys in the subway who all had the face paint.
Yes.
And for me, I hope this was the intent, but for me, I could connect the dots that it was an initiation for that one character to get his full face covered in paint as the Joker, because right, he had half of it. So, you know, they showed the guy on the phone showing the video of, you know, knocking out someone, and then so they end up chasing the man that's on the subway by himself, and they're telling him knock him out. So to me, it's like, okay, this is his initiation. He's probably knocked someone out already. So this is his full face Joker makeup initiation, right? So I like that nod or connect the dots, whatever you want to call it there, familiarity, right? Because the movie had almost the same kind of look, cinematography, gritty,
Yes.
old-timey New York, right? Grayscale, that kind of stuff there. So you mentioned earlier the way it was shot, and there's some beautiful scenes in it. I certainly agree with you on that. But that first part really, really got me, and we took the subway a couple of times after that.
Oh.
So, I was certainly on alert, just because, you're in a new city, you don't really know anyone, as the father, husband of the family, that's kind of your role anyways. So, the movie kind of gave that nice little, hey, you need to stand guard here. So
yeah.
even though, the folks in New York, regardless of what's depicted in the movie in Gotham City, folks in New York overall are pleasant, and it's a wonderful place to be.
He's going to make people looking into the shadows if you're in a dark corner, because I love the way in the beginning how it shows. And by the way, I love the voiceover. I thought that was an excellent touch. Something different. Yep. Reminded me of The Watchmen. Have you ever seen the Zack Snyder movie? Mm-hmm. I believe in 2008, The Watchmen. I love that movie. That movie, I really, really love it. And there's like a long cut too. There's like a 4-hour cut or something like that. I really love that one. Yeah. So I own it on Blu-ray, but it reminded me of that because it has the voiceover. So when you hear Batman coming out and he's, it's March 6th or Wednesday, whatever, he starts doing that. It reminded me of Rorschach, one of the characters from the Watchmen. And I loved it. That gave it a real, like a detective noir film. So I really appreciated the noir of that detective style movie, and the way the camera sits on dark shadows where the guy's like, he's going to rob something and he's looking in the shadows, and you just, the camera just sits on that and moves closely to that. And then they do that many times. And then the last one where he actually comes out and there, you just hear those boots, right? You just hear the metal boots of Batman walking, and then he comes out of the shadows, and then we see the scene that we've seen in the trailer, and that excellent where he just beats down that one guy mercifully. And one of the guys and the one what you were saying is about like an initiation, almost like what is it, American Me style? Remember at the end,
right?
Like when the little boy's like he has to shoot somebody. He's like, a lot of the gangs do that, in America, and I'm sure other places do. Kind of like you got to do your first drive-by or first whatever. There's something like that. But that guy who's I guess was gonna get the rest of his face painted decides, scares him off enough, so Batman kind of lets him go and he runs off. What did you think of like the relationship between Commissioner Gordon and Batman? Because after that you see the crime scene. Why? Oh, actually, before, like, what about that excellent? But even before that, I mean, the opening shot. Like, I can't believe we skipped that. Like, the one where it just opens up on Ave Maria. You hear the Ave Maria. And you see it from the perspective. At first, you don't really know, but then you get... Because at first, I thought it was Batman, right? That opening shot. Like, I thought it was Batman looking. I wasn't too sure. And then I was like, oh, okay, it's the Riddler. And you're looking at the Riddler, what he's seen. And then that's like a horror movie. Like, you see the mayor, he's in there, and he's inside the house. And from the shadow... Again, the film uses darkness and shadow a lot. And out of nowhere, you just... I think a light flickers on or the channel, and then the camera moves, and then the Riddler's behind the mayor. Just like like Michael Myers style. Okay, walk us through that scene. What did you think about that?
So yeah, I get what you mean, because until the dots connected, I thought it was Batman too. Yeah. Right. Just kind of, I was like, okay, so why is Batman watching this guy? Is he a suspect in something? Yeah. Kind of going into the movie, I had the understanding that this was like a detective style Batman, right? Compared to some of the other kind of styles of Batmans that we've seen in past movies and past versions, right? So, that was my first thought. I was like, okay, maybe he's on a stakeout, right? It's kind of funny to think of Batman on a stakeout. He's there in his suit, and he has like, a burger next to him, or a banana or an orange or coffee, right? Just he has his thermos. He has his Bat Yeti cup, just kind of with
like
coffee
meta,
right there,
like it's a bat, like character, like Batman characters and stuff.
Yeah. Well, no, like those Yeti cups, the brand Yeti.
Those are good.
Yeah, so it's like a Bat Yeti full of like coffee. So yeah, I thought it was Batman, but it wasn't, and we then learn it's the Riddler. I mean, by the way, you've already said it, but I need to say it too. You know, Paul Dano did an amazing job. I had recognized him, but I couldn't place him. Yeah. And that kind of distracted me from the movie, honestly. Not to get too off topic here, but for a good part of the movie, I'm like, who is this? I've seen this guy. When you kind of see his full face, you know, it's like, who is he? I've seen him in something. I don't know what it is.
Some of his best performance is Paul Dano. Like, if you want to see him performance, he comes out in There Will Be Blood, which stands toe-to-toe with Daniel Day-Lewis, who some would say is like the greatest actor of all time.
Right.
There Will Be Blood. Yep. His performance in Prisoners, the one with Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal, which he plays like a killer or something like that. And that's another good performance, kind of reminiscent of this a little bit. And then also his very brief performance, but in 12 Years a Slave, he comes out, Paul Dano, as one of like the slave owners, or not slave owners, but like one of the guys who have to like go out there in the field. And his performance in there, brief, is very good. So Paul Dano is an excellent actor. He's very excellent.
He is, and those are all, you know, great movies that you mentioned there. But what I know him from, honestly,
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, he was younger in this movie, right? But Little Miss Sunshine.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I was like, wait a minute, he's the son in Little Miss Sunshine. He's the guy that wants to be a pilot, but he's colorblind, and he throws a fit that he has a realization that he could never be a pilot.
I thought you were going to say The Girl Next Door, because he was in there, remember?
Oh, gotcha.
The Girl Next Door.
I've actually seen that one.
Yeah, he's like younger, like where the guy, I call him the fake Leonardo DiCaprio. He's in there, and then like he's dating like a model. Remember a model? Yeah, The Girl Next Door. That's a good. I thought you were gonna say that one because that one came out. That's like a childhood movie. But yeah, no, he was also young in Little Miss Sunshine.
Yeah, he was. Alrighty, so back to your question. So that opening scene is amazing, you know, and you see so I didn't initially realize it was Halloween. So to see the little boy kind of charge the mayor, who's his son, right? Charge him with a sword. I was like, what in the heck is going on here? You know, this Batman movie's coming in hot. You know, why is it starting out this way? And then I realized, like, oh, okay, it's Halloween. He's in character, and the dad's just being a good dad and playing along with it. So I was like, all right, that's pretty neat. But the Ave Maria in the background, number one, it was a beautiful rendition. But it made me wonder what's going to happen, right? Because that song and the use of that song, it grips you to wonder, okay, there's a reason why this is playing in the background, right? So that was honestly a good way to start the movie and to create that intrigue and to, in a way, kind of introduce the Riddler to the movie and kind of show what he's capable of. And that was just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. And it's right off the bat, what you said, it does go off the bat because he just bludgeons him with that object, and he just like it's a brutal scene. Like it's a brutal, like that's where right there I was like, oh my goodness, like wow, like this is immediately was darker than the Dark Knight, because you remember the Dark Knight, there was some parts, but this one felt like more guttural and more gritty and just like very violent, you know, like you could feel the anger and the hate in Paul Dano's character. He just runs, he yells at him and running, and he like hits him over the head, and it's just very creepy. And the way he's breathing in the mask, like he's just breathing. Yep. This is like, and again, the influences you see on the movie is like Chinatown. You see the influence of that, where it's like a corruption in the city that's corrupt, and then one murder is actually part of a bigger murder. So you see bits of the movie Chinatown in there. Also, obviously, people are pointing to Seven. I see a little bit of Seven too.
I've heard
some
that.
of the killer, you know, is Kevin Spacey's characters doing the seven deadly sins. And obviously the Zodiac was a big influence, the movie and the actual real life killer. And you definitely see that in Paul Dano's character, leaving notes and little symbols, just like exactly like the Zodiac, kind of even dressed like him. Instead of a hood over his face, he has that mask that's reminiscent of in the comic book lore, Hush. If some of the people read Batman comics, they'll know the guy Hush. And even in the animated movie, I think they spin it with the Riddler and all this stuff like that. So I thought it was really good. But the rated R, like that's another thing. In Ireland or England in Europe somewhere, some of the countries gave it the equivalent to a rated R. So like we have rated R PG-13, right? Well, in other countries they don't have like, rated R PG-13, but their version of a rated R movie in here in the United States, that's what the Batman got. So they rate in other countries, they rated it as rated R. So I could see this movie. I was like, oh yeah, I could definitely see the movie, how it was dark. And like I could definitely see it being a rated R. So it's interesting that other countries had it at that. So I wonder like how much Warner Brothers paid off, because again, R rating it does limit your box office, right? Because
it does.
Not that many people can go with it. So what were some of your other favorite scenes after that? We start going into the middle of the movie and stuff that come out to you.
So really, what stands out to me, so if we're talking about like the whole movie. Really what gets me is when he's in the car, the whole action scene with the car and the car chase scene where that car flips, like, what is it, like 8, 9, 10 times?
Yeah.
My son was
There's no way he's
count
alive.
The flips.
There's no way he's
no
alive.
way at all.
There's no way.
Yes. So my son that was sitting right next to me, I could hear him, and I kind of looked at him, and he looked at me, and he's just like 5, 6. So he was counting the flips. I was like, man, he's loving this, and I think I'm going to get in trouble, and yeah. So that kind of stuck out to me. The scene with I believe it was the mayor's funeral, where the ADA, where the ADA just kind of just drove right into the funeral. That to me, that shocked me, honestly. Honestly, I thought he was dead. Mm-hmm. I thought the ADA was dead, and there was a brick on the gas pedal. So to see him walk out, I was like, oh, he's actually alive. All right, let's see where this goes. That really got me. We can talk about the ending later. There's some scenes in there, and there's even some symbolism in that. And toward the end of the movie, with Batman's character that kind of struck me there. But honestly, one of my biggest takeaways, probably people may hear this and go, really, out of 3 hours movie, that's really what mm-hmm. took you away, was, okay, so Batman is this from an uber rich family. Not really in this movie. He's not really a philanthropist, if you will. It's even mentioned, right? You haven't done anything. So I'm not sure if there's innuendos because of who Batman is, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And the current climate to kind of approach that tactfully, if you will. But the tech he has, it seemed a little gritty, right? Which kind of surprised
Especially the
me.
Batmobile,
Yeah, the Batmobile, and like, so number one, I kind of think the whole contact lens thing was kind of cool, right? Where he wore a contact lens,
you can record it and stuff.
Like recorded video and audio. Does that just go to the cloud or something? There's nowhere where to put kind of storage. So how does that work?
That's interesting.
And then he takes it out and puts it in that sensor, and he can rewind and see and hear everything. But the tech all seemed like gritty, like it had knobs and like the screen looked like DIY. It didn't, like, normally Batman's tech is smooth, it's sleek. You think the Batmobile, and that thing is smooth and sleek. I'm thinking that was a judgment call for it to fall in line with the look of the movie, to where it seemed it was even staticky, right? Like the video was in 4K, right? It was at times it was grainy, the audio was kind of staticky, and whatever he was using to watch it on seemed DIY. So that stuck with me a lot, just because I'm kind of into that kind of stuff and audio and visual stuff. So I was like, wow, like it's, this is like beta testing kind of stuff he's using here. You'd figure he's got like the finished product, but yeah.
Yeah, what you talked about is like some of those favorite scenes. Yeah, me too. Is like the funeral scene, the Ave Maria again playing, and that's a tense scene. That whole scene, you're just tense, and Matt Reeves knows how to build the tension. And then I love that scene where you just hear something and everybody's turning around and like, what's going on? And then you just hear like something's coming, and then all of a sudden Bruce Wayne looks up, and it's the Riddler in his silhouette, and everyone's ducks down but him. So we know that's when the car comes crashing down. I love that scene. That was great. And one little minor critique I had It's not a big one, but Robert Pattinson's performance was excellent as Batman. Like, man, might be my favorite Batman, like, costume in. Like, the way he acted, the way his facial expressions, all of that, the way he moved, talk, I think it might be. I don't know yet, but I didn't love his Bruce Wayne. I liked it, but I didn't love the Bruce Wayne, especially, like, the hair choice. And, like, it was okay. Like, I liked it, but he didn't have that duality yet, you know, that Ben Affleck would be the Playboy Bruce Wayne. Christian Bale would even play the Playboy Bruce Wayne. Even Michael Keaton would play the Playboy Bruce Wayne.
Yep.
Robert Pattinson, we didn't get that. We didn't get that side of him because he was the same in the funeral, moping around, walking around. He didn't get that. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like,
they didn't, and you would think in the 3 hours of the movie or the 2 hours and
you would
56 minutes runtime, you would either see that or there would be an establishing scene to explain why. I don't recall if there's any kind of a scene that says this is why Bruce Wayne is emo.
No.
Right? There was nothing like that. He was like just Batman the whole time.
Yeah, which again, I love that part, but I wish I wanted a little bit of Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, exactly, and that's part of the attraction to Batman is there's that conscience.
That's
right?
the mask.
He's
that's
this
the
rich
real
guy.
mask.
Yeah, exactly.
Bruce Wayne
he's
is
this
the real
rich guy.
mask.
He does good. You know, he does all these things, but he also has all this awesome tech, and he's a crime fighter, and he's a superhero. There was no clear defining line for that. I wanted to know why he was the way he was when he was in Batman.
Now,
that's kind of one question that I still have.
In his defense a little bit, they said this is year 2 of Batman. So it's year 2 in his crusade. Now, maybe he hasn't understood that yet, and that's what I'm guessing.
Oh, maybe.
You know, I don't know.
Maybe.
But that's a potential, is that he's not there yet. He's only in year 2. He's new. He's going to figure out, okay, I got to be Bruce Wayne. I got to, you know, go around, show my face, and, you know, smile, kiss babies and all that stuff. So I can be like, oh, look, there's Bruce Wayne, and then give that extra, like, Batman, that extra extreme that would just show like, oh, this guy's a, you know, whatever, playboy flamperous, you know, he can't be Batman or whatever like that. But again, it's new, so maybe that. But then the Batmobile scene you were saying, it was like one of the best that I've seen, one of the best car chases I've seen in film in recent years ever, in a long time. But when they're going out, because he's with Catwoman and Penguin comes out, starts shooting and everything, and when Batman goes off and the Penguin is out there in the rain, and it's raining. And I love the rain, too. It's always raining. Yes. I love that. And you see Penguin's face. All of a sudden in the theater, you hear this, like, animalistic thumping, this roaring in your chest. You can feel it in your body and your bones. The way the engine revs up, and Penguin's face is like, he's horrified, and then the lights come on. And then I was like, oh, man, I love that introduction of the Batmobile. The whole theater you can feel it, like when the Batman engine revs up, and then all of a sudden the lights turn on, and I love that. That was like, and then the score from Michael Giannatelli, it was great. Like the score, like dun 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 dun, like throughout, like there was pianos playing, violins, like different versions of that same beat. And then in the chase, you just hear it come in, and then it goes away, and it comes in. Like I love the score. You know, the whole movie, beautifully scored, just beautiful sound, And then Gotham City is like a character, and that's what I really loved about Gotham City. Like to me, this is my favorite Gotham City on film. Even better, I love the Dark Knight trilogy. It was more like Chicago and New York. That's all it was. It was just Chicago and New York. Other than Batman Begins with the Narrows, that was kind of like different. But like the rest of the movies, it's just like a city, you know. Even Tim Burton. Like I like Tim Burton, and Tim Burton was gothic, and it was all like that. But this one was my favorite. The Gotham City is a character, and that kind of goes back to what, like, the theme. I kind of want to talk about the themes of the story and stuff, because you see how they established Bruce Wayne, right? They established the world first, and in this movie world, it is Gotham City as a character. That's the antagonist. To me, It's not. I mean, the Riddler, of course, and Falcone and the Mob and Penguin. But to me, the real antagonist, the bad guy of the story, is Gotham City. And in this world, in Gotham City, there's corruption, there's death, there's hopelessness, there's helplessness, and that's the story world. And I like the way Matt Reeves in the screenplay put that story against Batman, who sees what it is and wants to change it. And then so Batman is fighting Gotham City, he's fighting that corruption, he's fighting the darkness, he's fighting the violence. And then you have other characters like Catwoman, who's doing the same thing like Batman, but in a different way. She sees the corruption. Right. She sees how her friend gets killed and nobody cares. So she's fighting against that same thing, but from a different angle. And then also you have Gordon, same thing. He's rebelling against this story world, this villain of Gotham City, the corruption, all that. So you have Gordon, Batman, Selina Kyle. They all have the same goal in a way, in different ways, but they have the similar goal because they're butting heads with the story world, which is Gotham City. To me, and there's other themes too, but to me, I like that theme. What are some themes of this movie that you took away?
So the whole "I am vengeance" really kind of got me, right?
Yeah.
Is in the beginning when he says that, it's like I expected him to say "I am Batman," right?
Yeah.
You know, so I am the Batman. The movie's called The Batman, right? So when he said "I am vengeance," I was like, what? Like I'm not someone that's read up on the comics or that's followed it that way, so I don't know if that's a part of a comic book storyline. That's one of
those things called, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So when I heard that, I was like, all right, let's see where this goes. I'm interested, right? And then toward the end, when one of the Riddler's henchmen, if you will, or followers, or persons that he's influenced, turn around and says the same thing. It's almost like it's an eye-opening experience for Batman, because he's like, oh, okay, I'm not vengeance. They are.
Yes.
And you talk about themes and just kind of like symbolism and things. In that, shortly after that scene, right, when he's fighting, the bad guy, and they're literally on the top of the scoreboard inside Madison Square Garden, right? So when he falls in the water and he comes out, he starts focusing on the people that are in need.
Yeah.
So to me, it's almost like a baptism, right? It's like he falls in the water.
That's right. I never thought
about that. And he comes
Yeah.
out and like he starts saving people.
Yeah.
So
I didn't
to me,
think about
I was
that.
like,
That's good.
It's kind of
he gets fully immersed. Yeah, he gets fully immersed
in water.
The baptism. Yeah,
right.
And he becomes essentially a new person, because then towards the end too, when the lady, he's helping out people and stuff like that, and the lady grabs his arm and he kind of gives a smile, and that's actually I think the first smile he's given. It's the first smile in the whole movie. So it makes sense that he comes out anew from the waters of baptism. And so that's a very interesting, because that's perfect, because what I wanted to get into or mention too is piggybacking off of the baptism analogy. I was going to say about vengeance, about this movie's about vengeance too. And the Catechism of the Catholic Church in 2302, when it's talking about killing and anger, for this that we all struggle with this, obviously, but in the Catechism it says anger is a desire for revenge. To desire vengeance in order to do evil to someone who should be punished is illicit, but it is praiseworthy to impose restitution to correct vices and maintain justice. If anger reaches the point of deliberate desire to kill or seriously wound a neighbor, it is gravely against charity. It is a mortal sin. The Lord says, everyone who is angry with his brother shall be liable to judgment. And that's in the Catechism of the Catholic Church. So I like that it says to desire vengeance. So it has that word in there. So that's why I like that you said that baptism, because I was like, yes, because vengeance. And then I think Aristotle talks about similar things too. And some of the theologians have talked about how like anger can be good. anger, but it had, like Aristotle talks about how like you have to make sure you were really wronged, right? Like it can't be a false wrong, like, oh, he wronged me for this. It has to be real, and it has to be like balanced, and it has to be like, it has to have a form of justice. So like, what is justice, right? Justice is one of the 4 cardinal virtues, and justice is simply to render one to which they are due, right? To render one to which they are due. So if a good man is due to certain honor and you don't give it to him, or you don't do it or allow or give him what he's owed, well, then that's unjust, right? But if, like, let's say criminals hurting people or doing something or killing people or doing something like that, well, he is owed it. Justice demands that he is brought in, right? But then that gets into the, like, I know Batman's not Catholic really. I mean, there's been hints of, I think, like maybe Anglican or Lutheran or something like that. I mean, there's comic books of him going to like funerals, and there's hints. But I think that in a way, there's a Catholic idea of Batman doesn't kill. And I don't know if you want to speak on any of that. Like, I know you see well, I mean, don't say that to Michael Keaton in Batman '89, because he kills like a bunch, and then Ben Affleck. But in the comic lore, yeah, in the traditional comic book stances, Batman doesn't kill. He doesn't shoot. He doesn't do all that stuff. So, what do you think about that? Is kind of like a little Catholic nugget from the Batman psyche.
Right. So kind of before that, I'm just curious, what number is that in the Catechism of the Catholic Church?
2302.
2302.
Yeah,
okay,
2302.
See, I want to look that up later on.
Yeah.
2302. Awesome. Yeah, that's cool. And that's weird. That's not weird, but that's amazing that it does specifically mention vengeance. If I can just kind of speak about that section there, 2302 in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, just because some thoughts that came to mind as you were reading that. Thinking about what you said earlier about the Bruce Wayne character of this story, right? So you mentioned it's year 2.
Yeah.
So maybe he's learning. And toward the end there, you talk about charity, right? Mm-hmm. So, and sure, the word charity, in this case, I'm taking it as the literal word charity, where maybe with this baptism, if you will, in future, the Batmans, we'll see him learn to be that philanthropist that we were expecting him to see. Who knows what this experience what path it will lead him to. So that's just kind of a piggyback thought I had off of you reading that there. So awesome stuff.
I was going to say also too, like the vengeance, a lot of it like Aristotle will talk about like how it has a lot to do with the Avenger. Like what's his intent? What's his intent? He cannot take pleasure in another person's suffering or hate. So it has to be balanced, because then we do believe in like just war. The church has a doctrine on just war, and again, it's not like we can never again, the Nazis are going to take over the world. Like, oh, let's just stand back. And I know there are times when we'll call that self-defense. We wouldn't call that murder, if we're defending our land or somebody breaks into our house and say like, oh, I can't shoot them because that's against. No, that's not vengeance. That's not like that. And then even too, also in Romans, you have Romans 12:21, be not overcome by evil, but overcome evil by good. So there again in lies the Batman, where this Riddler is a bad character. And it's even taught, I find it strange, it's the whole Thanos, the Killmonger, the what's the other character? There's a bunch of other characters now where people are like, yeah, they were actually right. Have you ever heard that? Like Thanos was right, Killmonger was right, so-and-so. And there's been some people and the Joker was right. Some people have been saying the Riddler was right. And there's a tiny speck of truth, a little bit, as where yes, he's uncovering the corruption, the horrific corruption in the police department, and he's uncovering it, and so you can see a little bit, but overall that's a tiny speck. Overall he was wrong, even though he killed people. He killed even was it the car scene, the funeral, where he's gonna blow him up, and the guy's like, look, I can't do this because he'll hurt my family will be in danger, and then he gets killed. Like, even him was protecting his family, doing his family. He's doing wrong things, the DA, and covering stuff up, but he was protecting his family as well. Even in the scene where his dad, remember the part where they're talking about Bruce Wayne's dad told Falcone to like scare, not to kill him, but scare him. And he was like, yeah, you lied to me. That I thought my dad was good. And then Alfred tells him, he goes, no, your dad made a mistake in weakness, but he was a good man. And so another part of Catholicism that comes in is forgiveness and the idea that, was it Fulton Sheen, like, and maybe it wasn't Fulton Sheen, but I know somebody was one of the saints. There's a quote where they're like, a saint is not somebody who never sins, but someone who keeps getting back up. Someone who doesn't stay down, and that's taught in teaching in church, is like, you don't have to be perfect. Like, what was it? I think Saint Teresa, I think of Calcutta, said something similar. It's like, God doesn't demand that you be perfect, but God demand, like, oh man, I'm gonna mess it up anyway. But it's something like something like that. Like, it doesn't mean you never make mistakes. Like, a saint doesn't mean you never sin. So something like that. The quote that she said, it's similar, and I find it that the Riddler was very unforgiving. He's executing people. Even Bruce Wayne, he was going to kill him. Bruce Wayne didn't do nothing. He was just born. Remember, he was just born into the family. So what can you talk about the theme about forgiveness? The theme about forgiveness, and also the theme about how good men can do bad things and bad men can do good things. What are your thoughts on that?
That goes for everyone. We are all human, right? We're all human. So, this is kind of related, but it's going to sound like it's not. So as of recording this, and of course, ask everyone who hears this, regardless of what happens after today, to offer a prayer for Scott Hall, a wrestler better known as Razor Ramon, and Scott Hall in WCW, which is his name, who's on life support right now, right? Oh. And it sounds like he suffered 3 heart attacks over the weekend. Oh my goodness! So he's actually on life support. And the word from Kevin Nash, who was one of his closest friends and also a former wrestler, he put out a social media post stating that Scott Hall's family has decided to take him off life support once they've all gathered. So prayers for him. There's a lot of my childhood in wrestling, being a big fan of late '90s, early 2000s wrestling.
NWO, the Diesel.
Exactly. So a part of Kevin Nash sharing his thoughts and pouring his heart out on social media about this, he shared that one time Scott Hall mentioned to him, when he was questioning his past mistakes and trying to turn his life around, Scott Hall said to him, the last perfect person who walked this earth was nailed to the cross. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of timely, but it won't be years from now, because Scott Hall, will eventually pass. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What was that? We're all human. Yeah. And we all make mistakes. I made mistakes, Roger. You've made mistakes. And, maybe not on the scale of, having business dealings with a Carmine Falcone, or anything like that. But, we've all made mistakes. And, one of the many beautiful aspects of our faith is that we do have the sacrament of reconciliation, personally my favorite sacrament. And, mercy is given. And when you receive mercy, it's I don't know about you, but I just want to run down the street and just scream from the top of my lungs, that I'm redeemed. Yeah. And, Albert saying what he did to, Bruce, and saying, what, he's a good man. He made a mistake.
In a moment, weakness, I think he said, he goes, in a moment of weakness, he made a mistake, but he's a good man. Yeah. Yes.
And in weakness is where we find that we make those mistakes, right? In weakness. It's hard to stand firm 100% of the time. We can try, but we all have our moments of weakness.
St. Peter ran away and denied Christ 3 times. Yeah.
Exactly. 3 times, right? Mm-hmm. And there's some symbolism behind that as well, right? But that's a whole different episode right there. But it's in those moments of weakness that's hard for us to to fortify our stance because we are weak. We can't fortify when we're weak. So it's almost like you're saying, genuflexing, right? We need to learn how to genuflex in those moments of weakness, and that's a tall order to do. But it's mercy is given, and it's priceless.
Yeah, that's
it's
why
priceless,
some of the
and
people,
it's beautiful.
Yeah, I love that about our faith. Like that's one big thing that I definitely love, and I'll have the moments when I go out of confession and I just like get teary eyed and just like, oh my, this is a beautiful thing. And it doesn't have to happen every time, because sometimes I go in and I don't have that. It just depends. Like sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But it sticks no matter what. Like it sticks and it's valid, and you go and you make a good confession. That's wonderful. And that's why one thing I reject about that, like the Riddler was right, because I've heard people like, yeah, the Riddler actually I was agreeing with. I heard somebody say like, I was more on the Riddler side than Batman's side. Like Batman was the bad guy because he's trying to stop this corruption and all this stuff. And I reject that whole like the Thanos and Killmonger. And there's somebody else too that's famous that they're always saying that he was actually a good guy. But the Riddler reminds me of a lot of the real mass shooters that happen in the school.
What I got that same vibe.
Yeah,
when they showed. When they showed the last video, or the video there was password protected.
Yes.
And there was the comments, right? What gauge, you can find them. Here's the link. Like when they showed that is exactly the vibe that I got. Yes. Where I was like, this feels like something. This looks like a screenshot from like, what is it? 4chan.
Yeah.
Right. So that's exactly that's the vibe that I got from that. So I'm definitely with you on that.
Yeah, because he has that, and also too, he has the writings and all that. They find a little notebook, and he even says it about his story about and again, he had a tough life. Like he was orphaned, he was abandoned. They didn't care about him. He sees all these powerful people getting this and that and getting taken care of, and Bruce Wayne, and he's just got thrown and abused. He's in the system, and you can feel the anger, but just like all the other, like the Columbine shooters, if you read their writings, they're all similar. All the mass shootings, they're all similar. Is that they become bitter, they become angry, and they turn inward on themselves. They turn inward on themselves and become hellish, like a hellish creature, that they hate existence. Like they want to shake their fists at the sky, at God, even if they reject God, even if they say, I don't believe in God. But if they don't believe in God, they're shaking their fists at being itself, right? So they need to take out revenge. And what's the best way to take out revenge is not just, take yourself out. That's like to inflict as much useless, random suffering and killing as possible. That's why they do that. That's why they don't just, it's just them by themselves go off. No, they want vengeance on being, on life itself. And Jordan Peterson talks about this as well as all the Columbine shooters. And you see the stories in the Cain and Abel. Like you see the story in Cain and Abel, what happens is in scripture, like it talks about how Abel gave God his first fruits, and God was pleased with that. And Cain, there's speculation, maybe some people are saying that maybe he didn't give his first fruits, maybe it was the second fruits. He didn't put in the work. And some people say, well, maybe he did, but that's just how life happens, So there's speculation on that, is whether Cain did. But the thing that's not really debated is when God, or as Cain would say, what Cain would see it is like, oh, God, he favored Abel's his fruits that we gave him, and he's pleased, and me, he's not. God's kind of like, oh, disappointed, and try again. What does he do? He turns bitter. He says, poor me. He starts to say, poor me. And his situation, he's like, look at Abel over there, and I'm over here. He starts to turn inward. Instead of being humble and humility, he gets angry and he gets bitter, and he wants to take revenge on life. Because again, life's hard. Like it rains on the good and bad. There's going to be bad things that happen to good people. And the difference is when somebody takes that and they take that suffering as meaningless. That's hell. When your suffering is meaningless, that's hell. And you become bitter. And what do? You want to kill the best of us. Who's the best of us? Abel. Abel was the best of us. So same thing with the Riddler and the mass shooters. They want to kill the best of us. the people they feel that failed them, and that might be random innocent people, like in movie theaters, schools, and in this case, at the end of the scene, at just some random, like, because there's bombs, right? Riddler. We didn't talk about, like, Batman catches the Riddler, or he turns himself in because he kills Falcone. He turns himself in, and they have that great interrogation scene. And
which
later
to me,
on,
honestly, Roger, to me that kind of was weird to me that he turned himself in. I wanted to see Batman catch him.
Yeah.
So that was a little odd to me, where it's like, okay, well, I'm just gonna hang out in this diner and wait for the cops to
pumpkin pie or something.
Yeah, order a pie and wait for the cops to slam my face into the counter.
But it does fit, though, with a lot of the profiles of mass shooters. Think about the one in Colorado. Right. He had guns. He didn't go out without a fight. He didn't, like, I'm going to go down guns blazing and shoot the cop. No, he literally just gave himself up. So it kind of does fit with a lot of the people like that, mass shooters. So, yeah, I get what you're saying. I wish. But he turned himself. And again, remember, Riddler, and he's more like a narcissistic guy. He wants credit. He wants to go in there. He wants Batman in there. But then he figured out the plan about planting explosives. So he floods the city. And that's why we alluded to earlier, the water. So he floods. Think of it like Noah, right? Like Noah, the flood. There's another form of that. Like this city is so corrupt. This city is, and we're just gonna push the reset button. It's like God's like, all right, we got to reset. We got to push the reset button. And the flood comes in, and all these people, the citizens of Gotham, the new mayors, they're all in this place, and that's where they have the Riddler clones that are his followers, and they're just going to randomly shoot innocent people. And so that's the Cain and Abel story from the Old Testament, from Genesis, that we hear. It's the person going through life feeling like they were it's not fair. It's not fair.
Right. Cheated, wrong.
Yes. Turning their vengeance into murder. It's the whole Cain and Abel story. To me, that's the Riddler story. So towards the end, what did you think? What are your closing thoughts on the end? Like on the end of the movie, what are like some of your takeaways of what happened that we saw in the movie?
So takeaways from the movie. Honestly, I'm embarrassed to say this, but I'm confused who was in the jail with him. I'm assuming it's the Joker.
Yes.
But I have no clue. The other thought that I initially had was maybe it was Two-Face, because there was a line in their short dialogue they had that made me think it was Two-Face. I forget what the line is now. I've slept since I've seen the movie. But there's something in there that was like, oh, it's Two-Face. But then toward the end, I was like, I think this is Joker.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but it's interesting. It's like, oh, okay, so there's going to be another one, right? Like you just kind of assume there's always going to be another one now, especially with these big movies like this. They're not a standalone movie, but they're franchises.
Yes.
There's those awesome one-offs like, the Joker, right? But and who knows if there's going to be a second one? I think there might be, honestly, just from
there's going to be more. But Matt Reeves confirmed that it is the Joker, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be in the second movie. So there's that. So he said it doesn't guarantee he's going to be in there, but Matt Reeves, the director, was saying that they actually shot another scene too that did not make the cut of the movie with the Joker, of like Batman going in like Silence of the Lambs style, like trying to get advice from the Joker on how to catch the Riddler, stuff like that. But that was cut out. So yeah, but it was the Joker, played by, I don't remember, I can't say his name, but he came out in the Eternals. If you see in the Marvel movie, the Eternals, he was the one that could control people's mind. So I think he's a really good actor. Okay. So I was like, wow, I'm excited to see him. It'd be good.
Yeah, interesting. So I was kind of surprised there was no post-credit scene.
Yeah,
I'm sure after 3 hours, people were really eager to get out of the theater, even if it's to use the facilities. But I was like, is there a post-credit scene? That's kind of a thing now. So maybe there's one. And the lights turned on and the crew came in, and someone even asked, is there a post-credit scene? They're like, no, there's not. Like, okay, cool. So we heard that. It's like, all right, time to go. But as far as the end of the movie goes, that's really that conversation between the Riddler and the Joker. As far as Batman goes, he had that little kind of closure, if you will, with the Catwoman. Mm-hmm. And there was that scene that I was anticipating, right, where they go their separate ways based on the conversation they had, where she's like, you can come with me and let's go and let's what did she say? Something to the effect of, let's go rob some banks and, you know, bust some executives or something. So she kind of opened the door for him to kind of have like a life of crime. And she's like a cat burglar, right? So that's kind of her deal. But you know, that's also kind of a show of growth for him. Not to say he would have done that before the baptism, if you will. But, you know, just seeing them go on their separate ways, right, on their own paths. So that's, to me, was kind of interesting. The Catwoman character was a little kind of interesting to me. She was there and then she wasn't. And then she was kind of a big part of the movie because she was Falcone's daughter. It's like, oh, wow, okay, this is getting interesting here. And then she kind of had some intel for Batman. And to kind of rewind a little bit, I couldn't help but chuckle at the scene where she was wearing the contact lens and Batman was like in stakeout, right? He was like in a stakeout where he was like, you know, tell me what she's saying, or who's that guy? And wait a minute, turn around, look at that guy again. That's the ADA. That's this guy. Where did he have to be in the Batman outfit for that scene? I honestly took some time after the movie to think about this. I was doing something random, like I might have been packing for my trip or something, where I was like, okay, let's consider the alternative. Was he in his suit so that way he was at the ready in case he had to swoop in? Or like, couldn't he have just been like, you know, emo Bruce Wayne, where has his like Nirvana t-shirt on and flannel, eating like combos or, you know, corn nuts and just kind of on stakeout. So to me, that was a little comical, where he was the guy in the chair, if you will, kind of like steal a line from the Spider-Man movies, right? Yeah. But he was just kind of sitting there staring at a screen, directing traffic. I don't know how they could have made that any better, but I just thought it was funny. He was just sitting there. Maybe have him in the suit, but without the mask on. You know, maybe that could have worked. I don't know, but I thought that was kind of funny. He was just kind of sitting there directing traffic. So
my closing thoughts are that is like, this movie was incredible. It's very dark. A lot of influences of the Long Halloween from the comic books. You have, of course, Year One, the Frank Miller comic book. Very excellent. Selena Kyle, I thought she did. Zoe Kravitz was very, very good. The Penguin, man, he was incredible. They're making an HBO series, and I can't wait for that. He was unrecognizable. He was funny.
Colin Farrell.
Colin
seriously,
Farrell was the Penguin.
Like,
yes.
That there was no way I was ever going to know that.
You didn't know, right?
If someone told me. If no one told me, I would think it was some unknown actor.
Yeah, I was like, man, that unknown actor is great. I loved his like his accent, kind of like a New York, New Jersey kind of like mob guy. He's like, hey, take it easy, sweetheart. He's like telling Batman. Right. He was funny. He was great. I loved the Penguin. Incredible. The relationship between Batman and Gordon. Man, I loved it. And I love Gary Oldman and Christian Bale relationship. But this one was very good, too. It's like they known each other forever. This was the Batman, like, doing the actual detective. Like, he was going in, looking at stuff, getting the thumb drive. I like that part. That was a funny part. Paul Dano, his character was amazing. There's so much stuff. Like, the scenes, the car chase. Like, a lot of the fighting, too. Batman's in the club, like, just beating up people, getting shot. That one scene, kind of like the Rogue One Vader, kind of like where he's in the dark and he's coming to the bad guys and they're shooting off the guns and you just see the flashes from the gun. That reminded me of, like, a Darth Vader kind of scene. He's just going at him. I love the suit, the cinematography, the picture, the color, the score, everything. I really, really, really love this movie. Can't wait to see it again. Hopefully they'll make very, very much more. So yeah, those are my and again, I like the Riddler and the themes of the movie. And you pointing out the baptism and stuff, that's really good. I like that. And so to me, there's a lot of stuff to talk about that. Like, it's like the flood, the Noah, the Cain and Abel, kind of like the revenge, the Riddler, kind of like, again, it's like sad, but he's like, oh, my life was hard, therefore I'm going to kill people. It's like, no, that's exactly what you don't do. That's our faith teaches us not to do that. So there's so much stuff to pull from this movie. So I really enjoy this. Thank you again for giving me your time to talk about this movie. The Batman, would you, okay. I give it just, to me, I give it a 9. A 9. Yeah, I give it a 9 out of 10. I would highly recommend this to people to go see it. What would you rate it as, and would you recommend it for people?
Yeah, about a 9. That falls in line with what I'm thinking also. And of course, I would certainly recommend people watch it. I would prep them first as well, especially if they plan on taking kids. I wish I had that.
That's pretty dark. Honestly. Yeah, it's like especially that first scene is like, whoa, like
yes.
Oh, I was gonna say one more thing.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say the only thing, another critique of it. I kind of figured there is a little bit of wokeness in there. Like you have Selena Kyle character. She was like touted as bisexual. Also, that one line made me cringe, like where she's talking to Batman and she's talking about, these guys, people, and their white privilege. It's like they said the word, the phrases. So to me, there was a little bit of a wokeness kind of vibe in there. But other than that, there definitely was some wokeness.
That's kind of what I was alluding to earlier when I said, the current climate of things, right? Which you can pick up on by just watching the movie. Sure. You don't have to read reviews or know backstories to know that that's in there.
The have and have nots, all that stuff. Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
All right, man. Once again, thank you. This has been Faith, Reason, and Geekdom. I am Roger, and that is
Jason Nunez.
Thank you, guys. God bless.